Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this information session on what is TechScaler and what does it mean for the south of Scotland. We're very happy to welcome you here today, and we are very happy to welcome everyone online as well. We are trialing this as a hybrid session, so we'll have engagement from people joining us online, engagement from people in the space with the panel, and afterwards, we'll invite everyone online to join an online networking session. So if you're joining us online, please stick around and join that waiting room. My name is Kelly Gardner. This is our run through for the evening. So we're very happy to be starting bang on time. We'll have our What is TechScaler presentation by Stephen Coleman. We'll jump into panel discussion and Q&A. And after that, we'll have some time for networking online and in person. Our panel this evening is as follows. We have Stephen Coleman, OBE, Audrey Updike-Barnes, who's our VP of Place, Shona Marsh, who's our Head of Education Programs, Sarah Jane Barnes, who's your Head of Regional Engagement for South of Scotland, and Barry MacDonald, our VP for Community. Without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Stephen.
And yeah, hello everyone, thanks for coming, whether you're here in the room or online. Plan for this evening, want to give a presentation about what TechScaler is in general, our approach across Scotland, and then we can have a Q&A and get into more specifics about what it'll mean for the South of Scotland region. I'll kick off. What is TechScaler? Really, TechScaler is Scottish Government's platform for startups, tech startups in Scotland. And it was born from the Scottish Tech Ecosystem Review that was conducted during the kind of early months of COVID in 2020. And a number of recommendations came from that, one of which was the establishment of this TechScaler network. That then prompted us to propose our model, which I'm really happy was taken on by Scottish Government. And the model really has four core elements. It's education, mentorship, community, and place. And I'll talk a bit about what each of those mean for TechScaler. Something really important to mention, though, just off the start, is that TechScaler in year 5 is going to look very different to TechScaler in year 1. It has to iterate, it has to continually iterate because the world is changing faster and faster. Regions will change, different opportunities will arise, different challenges will arise. And so TechScaler needs to adapt to that in order to actually remain useful and relevant and impactful. So who is TechScaler for? It's for anyone in Scotland that wants to build a tech startup or scale a tech startup. So that's from the kind of pre-startup phase, anyone who just is interested in tech, wants to understand what building a startup even means, wants to know how to come up with an idea, how to start forming, maybe even get your co-founders together, and what the first steps are, what support exists out there, and what a pathway might look like. It's really just at that early stage, it's can we try and get more people to start, and then it's all the way through to people who already have a successful business that's growing and they want to support their team through scale-up education and be part of the wider tech community and everything in between. And despite the name, it's not about just scaling, so startup as well, pre-startup. And it's not just about techies. It's not just about people that can code. People that can code are awesome, but the skills that we are delivering are around the business model. It's around the entrepreneurship skills. It's about the startup playbooks of how you can build a successful tech startup business. So taking those kind of best practice playbooks from around the world, but also bringing them into a Scottish reality to understand what that means for Scotland, what it means for a different given region, specific locations, what support's available, and how you can be part of a community and grow. So really it's about building a tech ecosystem. So what do we mean by a tech startup? I think a lot of different people, different organizations think of different things when they think of the word startup or think of tech. So for me, I like to think of it as like innovation-driven startups. So a business that has an innovation at the core of what they're doing, not necessarily just the concept of innovation, but a specific innovative thing that they're working on. More often than not, the vast majority of those are software product businesses. So a business that is working on a single software product as the core of what they're trying to bring to market. But we are also seeing more hybrid businesses and more higher hardware businesses adopting tech startup methodology. So the net is wider, but really that core focus is software product and innovation-driven startups. And in terms of eligibility, at the earliest phase, it's super open. We have one requirement, which is that you agree to our code of conduct. And other than that, please come in, join, be part of the community, and engage and find other people that you can help, that can help you. And then as we get along the pathway, which I'll show you shortly, there are sort of eligibility criteria which are not there as a barrier to entry, but it's more just as a way of figuring out, is this right? Because at every phase we want to make sure that we're just delivering some value, we're able to deliver the right support for you at a particular time. We've built a large range of partnerships, which we'll also talk about later. And a lot of those partners are supporting what we're doing, but we're also connecting. It's also partners that have broader support networks, such as the enterprise agencies or other enterprise support organizations across Scotland, who provide wider support that we can also connect into, signpost to, and mutually work together to ensure that there is a cohesive, consistent network of support across Scotland for building a new startup. So the education pathway, as I said, it's from pre-startup to scale-up. There are 4 programs along that pathway. So at the earliest stage, it's Startup Basics. That's an online content piece, self-directed, and it's hosted on our community platform, which we'll get to later. And that is really just about trying to wave a flag to say this is what a tech startup even is, and please consider it an option. So there are interviews with founders, about how they started, what their challenges were, how they then grew in Scotland. So really just trying to promote startups as a viable option. Then in the next phase, we've got Startup First Steps. So that's for those who have committed or are just about to commit to building a startup. So talking about getting your first funding, taking an MVP approach, how you might find your co-founders, maybe get your first customer, those kind of early stages that you need to kind of wrap your head around. And the next phase, it's Startup Next Steps. That's for the startups that have grown a bit. They've built an MVP, they've got a basic product, they want to grow their team, they want to grow their customers. Maybe they're looking at their next round of funding. So what does that look like to maybe go towards Series A? And what's the global best practice around that? But also, what does that look like in Scotland? So what support's there? What does investment look like? And then looking at the future of what you sign up to now can impact what you're able to do down the line. So making sure you're aware of a lot of the potential hurdles there. And in the scale-up stage, we have partnered with Reforge. Reforge are Silicon Valley-based, best-in-class at scale-up education. And they, within Reforge, there are around 20 or so dedicated programs for different members of a scaled-up team. Everything before that on the pathway is very much directed at founders in an education sense. At scale-up stage, you've grown your company to a phase where actually it makes sense to have your product manager go on a course about product management, or you have a marketing team, or you have HR. There are functions within a scaled-up team that map to different programs, and that's something that Reforge provides. There's also a community wrapper around Reforge, which is really valuable too. And through this pathway, we don't see it being a linear path that people have to go through from the start to finish. There are multiple entrance points, multiple exit points. You'll see in between each phase, there's an apply lessons area. The idea there is that you shouldn't go from one program directly into the other. You go to a program, you learn some lessons, and you take those out and you apply them to your business, and you see where you get to. You see if it's something that you want to continue, and then if you want to keep going, then the next phase is there, and we repeat that process. And you also see at the top of this diagram the loops going back. So that really is trying to reflect that we want to create some virality within this system. We want people to give back who are later on. We want people to come out of growing startups and build their own startups. For the startups that fail, we want people to come out of that process and build new startups or go into other growing startups. That's a process that we've always seen from the very start of Codebase, and it's something that we think is just an absolute core element of a healthy ecosystem. A single startup is very risky. It has to be very risky. Otherwise, frankly, you're doing it wrong. But as an ecosystem, if you have a lot of startups together and you build that community, that startup ecosystem can be really anti-fragile. They can support each other, they can support failure, and really start to build a much more viable, healthy ecosystem. So I've already talked about these programs. Skip those slides. So that was education. The next column for TechScaler is mentorship, and that is one-to-one mentorship based around what your focus is, what your stage is, the particular challenges you're facing at a given moment in time. So we have a network of mentors, I think currently around 35 mentors and growing, each with their own specialisms, their own experience level, who can help you in different stages, different challenges, different sectors, verticals that you're in. And that's something that really requires a lot of matchmaking. So we have discussions with you to figure out where you're at and who the right person to connect you with would be. And the next column is place. So for me, place is all of Scotland. When TechScaler was first announced through the STER and then through the Scottish Government accepting those recommendations, I think it's fair to say that the focus was primarily on the creation of hubs. Now, Codebase, we started as a hub. We have hubs. I believe in the benefits of being in hubs very much. But we felt that TechScaler shouldn't just be about being in hubs. It really should have a focus on education and on community, and that should be for all of Scotland. So everything that we do as TechScaler through education, community, mentorship, all of that is available online, hybrid, so that whatever part of Scotland you're in, you can access that value, and all of that is for free. The one aspect where there is potential for payment is if you take space in a hub, then you'll pay rent for an office or desk. But having presence in a hub is not a requirement for accessing any other element of TechScaler. It's really just, it's its own benefit. And that model is there to make TechScaler services as accessible as possible, as inclusive as possible. It also helps us to work with more and more partners who provide hubs, such as Crichton, where we are in this lovely building, and bring in value and work with others who understand their local area, who understand their region, to deliver some really targeted support. With that said, those hubs do form a center of gravity. So, I mentioned there's an online place. There'll also be pop-up activity across regions, but the hubs will be a center of gravity where a lot of events and that co-location obviously happens. So the hubs that we do have are Edinburgh, Stirling, Glasgow, Dundee, Aberdeen, and Inverness. All of those in partnerships. And Dumfries, we have Sarah Jane, who sat here, who's based here at the Crichton, and we are looking to take a community-first approach in the south of Scotland to build up community, deliver education, and then pull together a hub when we have that center of gravity ready. And yeah, the community really is absolutely at the core of TechScaler. I think that's been at the heart of Codebase from day one. I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of value that we've been able to add to the ecosystem is that community. It's the connections. It's the people supporting each other. It's the network beyond Scotland that people are able to tap into. That we've just found that to be absolutely invaluable. Whether it's someone being connected internationally to an investor, or whether it's just someone in a coffee queue having a chat about the problem they're facing, and then the person next to them says, "Oh, I've solved that," and tells them that afternoon how to fix it and saves them 6 months of runway. These are all very real examples that happens. The community really is so important, and co-locating in a hub is definitely one way to access that, but also is being part of the online community massively. We have a dedicated online team. Anais, thank you, over there, is managing the online team at the moment. And yeah, being part of that community is tremendously valuable. And as I said, the barrier to entry to that is really just that you agree to our code of conduct and nothing more. So please, if you take nothing else away from today, go to techscaler.co.uk and join that community. You'd be very, very welcome. And I mentioned partnerships. So TechScaler really is a collection of partnerships. So Codebase, we're leading on that. We pulled the bid together and have been awarded the contract. But it really is not just all about Codebase delivering TechScaler as our own thing. It's really a connection of many partners, national, international, regional, all coming together and helping to provide support for startups. And if the partners you see in front of you are our initial partners, but we absolutely want more. So whether you're in the room or you're online, or someone that works in another ecosystem organization, please, we want to chat. If we're not already partnered, we definitely want to have a chat about what a partnership could look like. And really, we want TechScaler to be an enabler. We've designed it to be just an additive layer within the ecosystem. From a regional point of view, we understand that every region is different. Every region has its own strengths, its own gaps, its own kind of building blocks, and its own combination of how those building blocks are put together. So we don't want to just kind of come in and with a cookie cutter approach and say, hey, this is exactly what's going to work here. We really want to work with local partners, lean on their expertise, lean on their reach, and just try to figure out how we can be additive, how we can help. And yeah, just to conclude, we are not the startup police. We're not trying to own tech. in Scotland at all. TechScaler is a Scottish Government initiative. It is a platform to enable activity, but it's designed to work with everyone. It's designed to add value, to be non-competitive. We want to help startups, and we want to work with others who want to help startups. So with all that said, we're really excited, and yeah, it'll be really good to have a chat, whether it's in the room or online. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to the Q&A part of the session. I have a roving mic, so I'll move around the room if we have questions in the room. Anais, who is our head of online community, is running everything online, and Anais will be posing questions to the panel from anyone who has asked a question online. So any questions? Yes.
Hi. You sort of alluded to the fact that a hub for Dumfries wouldn't be an initial stage that you're looking to build the community before putting in place a hub, which is fair enough. So I guess my question would be, what are the first steps in trying to find that community and reach out to that community in the area, and yeah, what are your first steps generally? What kind of education, and who are you talking to, reaching out to?
Well, I'll hand over in a second to Sergey, but yeah, just as an overall picture, the TechScaler was the result of a procurement through ScotGov, and they requested, as part of that procurement, 5 locations, which were Edinburgh, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Dundee, and Inverness. In our proposal, we said, okay, yep, those 5 make sense, but we also think that, one, we should have a presence in Stirling because we've already been delivering a successful hub there, and we have a community, so it would be a shame to lose that momentum. And 2, we think that there should be a hub in the south of Scotland, because that hasn't been included. We think it should be. However, in that model, as I said, we didn't think that it would make sense for us to build a hub from day one. We don't want to just do a kind of build it and they will come approach. So it really is about connecting with the community, building an understanding of what we're trying to do, and then be kind of demand driven in terms of pulling that hub together. So if tomorrow we suddenly discover actually there's a really engaged early tech startup community that we can pull together, then awesome, we'll do that. But we're anticipating it'll probably take around a year or so of activity for us to have enough knowledge and enough awareness of figuring out what to do. But in terms of kind of current day-to-day activity.
So one of the things I've done since starting is basically a lot of desktop research and mapping out who's in the region. It's something that each of the heads of regional engagement have done, is looking at who's in the area in terms of startups, organizations and other ones. And so part of my role is I'm going out and talking to those people. I've already been over to Stranraer a couple of times, been up to Galashiels a couple of times. So it's just about going out and telling people that we exist and who we are, and seeing where there is activity and who's there and who's engaged. And I think that will form part of my activity over the next however many months, is just trying to go out and discover who's where and there. But yeah, I have a list of there is activity, and then we're also working with South Scotland Enterprise as a partner, and I've started conversations with them. Kirsty's in the room, who I've been starting conversations with, so linking up with organisations like that as well, and just yeah, I think I'll be going out telling people that we're there and seeing where people come out from, essentially.
Yeah, so absolutely, and working with those organizations. So you may have spotted, if you had particularly good eyes, that we were partnered with a number of universities and a number of councils. Where we haven't already partnered with a university or college or council, you can assume that we intend to, that we want to, and those are networks that we want to lean on as well. And then on the other side, there's marketing. So we've built a marketing team to drive that in a kind of scaled way, that on the other side of the spectrum from Sarah Jane and team kind of going and engaging on a one-on-one. But yeah, we really want to be kind of, so on that marketing side in particular, we really want to be data driven. So capturing the data about where people are located, where the interest is, and then using that to drive some of our presence and that kind of pop-up activity. Yeah.
It's also in terms of mapping stuff out. Mm-hmm. In terms of mapping stuff out, because I've been in hubs and communities in the past for a while, and actually making that info available early would be key, because otherwise you just like sit in your room working away, heads down, coding or whatever. And so yeah, having an understanding of what is out there is one element in keeping you going as well, I think. So yeah, just a comment that would be nice to see. Yeah.
I think there's so something that Sarah Jane's actually been amazing at, and probably just doesn't want to toot her own horn, is that as she's been mapping people, making contacts, meeting people, asking to be introduced to what startups might already be in the area, and just quietly working away. Every time she meets someone, she invites them to the online community, and there's a dedicated channel for South of Scotland. And Sarah Jane's posting events and working with Annie on an engagement strategy for there. So while there isn't a physical place that's buzzing yet, there's a place for people to be pulled together, building excitement, engagement, learning from the education programs online, and we're getting an understanding of when and where there will be a critical mass. And also making it so that even when we do have a hub, there will still be, same for Highlands, Islands, a very dispersed community, so that when people do come together, they've gotten to know each other online, they feel more engaged to come because they know that there will be people there. There's something that beyond just marketing and understanding registration numbers, people they've interacted with that set themselves at ease to know that if I dedicate time and resources to driving to this event, if I don't live immediately nearby, then I know I'm still going to get value from this event, or by going to work at hot desking for that day. So it's building that online as a linchpin factor in the medium term that helps us gauge and also build the engagement. Yeah.
I think community will be really important in that aspect. And one of the things I really like about what Codebase has been building and that will be put into TechScaler is that community sense. So when you go to an event, there are people that you already know. There is a community vibe, if I can use that word very loosely, but that's something I really like. I don't know if you want to talk a bit more about how the community.
Yeah, I think first of all, when we're talking about kind of regional mapping, it's something that we will be mapping across the whole country, who is in our community, because I think what's most important is who isn't in the community, and working out why they're not in the community, and then developing a strategy to engage with those people. But even in the absence of a physical hub, there is so much support the community can offer you from events like this, whether they're hybrid, online, in person. We talk about equity of opportunity. So whether you're in Dumfries, Galashiels, Glasgow, or Edinburgh, you should be able to access the same level of support as your peers. So even though we don't have a physical hub, there is a national event strategy that my colleague Kelly has written, and there's an online one that Anais has written. So we will still be holding lots of events. We'll still be pushing that cross-pollination piece of founders between all the different regions. So we will be bringing people from out with the region down here, and potentially taking people from this region out with the region as well. It's very much it's not a zero-sum game between all the regions in Scotland. We hope that the founders here can learn from from the peers across the country. So even without that physical hub at the moment, there's still so much we can do community-wise to support you on your journey.
Any other questions? We've got one. I'll get Kirsty and then we'll get our online question.
So I have actually been on the community and I think it's good, and I think I wasn't aware quite how much non-techie, for want of a better word, support there is for digital marketing and things. And I have kind of mentioned this to Sarah Jane as well, that we already have the likes of the D&G Business Network Forum on social medias and things like that. So we've got that in the south, and our borders may have something similar. I'm not too sure yet. So I think I just wondered if there's any kind of marketing for that, to, even have like a video demo to show that actually, I don't need to be a total tech expert to be able to go and get benefit out of this community. Because I think that word does probably scare some of us down here when we see it, if I'm honest. Secondly, I wondered if, I love the education roadmap and it falls with a lot of what we see in the wider ecosystem as well. But say if I was somebody that just wanted, actually I don't know where I fit in that, can I speak to somebody? Can I get a bit of just, is there a room for somebody coming actually directly, just have a one-to-one with somebody, have a chat, get a wee bit of that expert help and see where they could fit into what's already there or what support's available for them? Sorry, I know that's two big questions.
I'm going to try and remember. The first one is around creating a welcoming environment for non-techies, or showing that we've got that opportunity.
Yeah, I think not even creating, because I think it's there, but I think it's looking at how you attract people who aren't in that environment just now. As even just somebody that was doing marketing, say, actually I was looking at that community and going, actually, do you know what, there's loads I could access there, but I wouldn't think of that going into it, but actually I think there's a lot of resource that would benefit people in that kind of sector.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the second one is around someone's entry point, essentially, to having a conversation, to understanding what the benefit is to them. So I guess I can talk so I'm head of education programs, so I'll talk specifically from an education point of view, because I think both of them are really relevant, and then pass over for anyone else's input. In terms of the second question, which is probably easier to answer, is that when you go onto the TechScaler website, there are 2 or 3 options to start engaging. One is immediately join the community, where you can come in and start having that conversation with online moderators and other people who are Codebase members of the team that are in the community and actively engaging. The second is that you can just submit a form to say, I'm interested, here are all my current things, and you'll be pushed into a process where you do get contact with a member of the team. It won't necessarily lead initially to a direct one-to-one conversation, but to an email conversation to gather information around where you are and point you in the right direction. It may be that we can't service you through TechScaler, but we have the support signposting available for other opportunities that might suit you at that time. And if TechScaler is the place for you, you will be led into a one-to-one conversation with a member of the team to discuss your background, what you're interested in, where you're heading with it, and what your ideas are, and at what stage you sit. And then that will put you into the position of the support packages that are available through education, mentorship, space in our hubs, and other support that's available through the online or in-person communities as well. I think there are other opportunities to talk to the Codebase team. The heads of regional engagement are out engaging with the community. We're trying to run events to discuss with people what's happening. And we have at our hubs open coffee mornings once a month as well. So there's lots of place to interact, and I guess we also need to get the word out there. Does anyone want to cover more on that?
So just briefly on the getting the word out there.
Yeah.
So we've just launched TechScaler, and we've been talking a little bit about it, but from a marketing point of view, we haven't really turned up the dial on the marketing yet, because we wanted to make sure that we were able to address the needs of the first people coming through. So now that we're kind of getting to that point of getting on top of all of our internal systems, that process that Shona outlined, and people are now starting to go through the programs, we're now expecting to kind of turn up the dial on that marketing. And yeah, a huge part of that marketing is, to be honest, is essentially taking the viewpoint that the TechScaler name is not most ideal name, and how do we spread the word that it's not just for technical people, that it's a broader community, that it's a broader approach, and that there's some value there that people could engage with.
And so specifically on the skills and techie piece, if we can get people into the community, I guess then you get access to our Startup Basics program, which has, we've got 2 modules live now. One is called Why Startups, and it's about what makes a tech startup and why it's potentially different to another type of business or endeavor. And the next one is Where Ideas Come From, talking about if you've got an idea, what could you do with it, or where does it go from here? The one to come, so the sneak peek, next is what skills do I need? And that's really to debunk that myth that you need to be a techie, you need to be a developer or a coder to be able to set a startup up, that you actually need the business skills, you need to have the people skills, and that may be a single person, or it may be a team of people, it may be contracting out, and we're just giving that information about even where some of the most famous startups have come from might not be from a technical background. So again, it's about trying to get that, it's sharing that information, and there'll be a marketing play into that as well, that comes with creating that material.
No, I should say it was a positive, because there's so much in the community that I think we probably didn't realise was there until you actually get in it. So yeah, that's good.
That's kudos to Anais.
I'll hand over here.
Not a question, more an invitation. Between the 2 business gateways, Dumfries and Galloway and Borders, we will do over 600 starts this year. Sarah Jane, come and talk to us, and we'll try and find what a tech is in there, because we've got an awful lot of non-techs. But, open invitation.
Thanks very much. I will take you up on that.
I'm handing the mic over to online now.
I'll start with the most upvoted question, which is how do you support diversity and what does it look like in practice?
Sure. So for the ecosystem to be healthy, it has to be diverse. Startups need to be diverse, and the individuals in those startups need to be diverse. So it's a super important question, a super important aspect to be supporting. We're doing that through partnerships largely. So we currently have partnerships with Radiant and Brighter, Code Your Future, Accelerate Her, and the Data Kirk, all focused on different aspects of diversity and inclusion. But absolutely, there's scope for further partnerships there. But again, it's taking that model of TechScaler being an enabler. So rather than us trying to do it ourselves, it's saying, okay, who's out there and doing great work? How can we work with them to support the ecosystem? On a very practical level, something that we're working on just now is through those partner organizations having routes into TechScaler for people from underrepresented backgrounds to gain access on a kind of reduced friction way to our services. We're really trying to take an affirmative action approach to diversity, because we think that's just the right thing to do. Audrey, you want to throw in some more?
Sure. So the diversity of Codebase was one of the things that attracted me to want to work here in the first place. And it's an organization that's been pretty proactive in saying, how do we be better? How do we learn from people who have the lived experience of their own background and their identity moving around in these ecosystems, these spaces, and have tried to hire also diverse. So the representation amongst the team it's great to work around as a diverse representation myself. There was training with Radiant and Brighter to become an anti-racist organization. We have constant internal conversations about how do we be more inclusive amongst ourselves, so gender, race, neurodiversity, the queer and LGBTQ plus community, and even immigration, people who come from different economic backgrounds. So internally, and that's where it has to start, there's a proactive approach going on, holding each other accountable and being really open to being more transparent to the public. So we have that proactive piece in place internally and with partners for the community With TechScaler, we're implementing a DEI data strategy so that we can start to measure how that's going. So we'll be getting people to fill out equal opportunities forms when they apply to join, when they come into the community, and tracking it all across the journey of maturation for startups and participation in events. That way we can say, okay, well, this is the representation of people coming forward. Here are the gaps, as Barry mentioned, who's not here? And what are the partners we can work with who will help us both approach those different groups that are not feeling like this is accessible to them or welcoming to them, and develop best practice. And they will help us with their lived experience and expertise. And then as we come in through the journey to different events, and say we get all the way up to scale up stage, and we've had a massive drop off of people from different backgrounds, we can deep dive into that data to understand that, to see it, to measure it, and work with the right partners to develop the programs themselves. Maybe it's a teaching style, maybe it's representation in marketing, maybe it's about how we curate and how we word things. So everything from how we hire, how we develop our internal culture, how we welcome accountability, work with partners, and also use data to track and pinpoint where we might be failing or actually also doing great. We also want to highlight where we might be doing a good job. We might have a cluster of unexpected activity amongst usually underrepresented groups in tech, where they're feeling really welcome to come and participate in it for the first time in Scotland with us. So we want to learn from that too, and do impact reporting regularly. We're very accountable to the Scottish Government in that whole process, and always welcome more conversations, consultations, feedback, ideas from people across the community and out with it. And hopefully, if you're out with it, you will then join the community because you felt heard and empowered.
Also, if I could just add very quickly, on a practical level, from an event strategy point of view, DE&I is really much is very much at the heart of our event strategy. So there is, as Stephen mentioned, a case of affirmative action for diversity in terms of events participation. So whether that's guest speakers, whether that's panels, etc. We really aim to put diversity at the heart of that. So if you come to TechScaler event, you will never see a manel, you will never see an all-male panel, for example. I hope I haven't made a rod for my own back, but you definitely won't. And in terms of community-led events, it's really important that we support the community to run their own events. And again, that's something we're really, really keen to support people from underrepresented groups to do.
We'll have another online question.
In south of Scotland, is it more appropriate to connect with the Edinburgh hub rather than the Dumfries one if it's closer to hand?
Okay. Do you know what? That really does come down to preference at the end of the day. So when you apply, you are asked to give your postcode. That just lets us know where people are coming from, but then you can select the hub of your preference. If it is that you live in Galashiels and at the moment you would like to come to a physical hub regularly and Edinburgh is the best one for you, we will make sure you meet Ian, our head of regional engagement for Edinburgh and Lothians. Similar, we've got little areas like Kilmarnock, where maybe you want to choose between South Scotland and Glasgow. We've got people that live in Dundee that would rather come to Edinburgh just because of the way that their life works out. We need to be flexible, adaptive, supportive. And ultimately, we really want the network effects of hubs across the country to plant in, to gain speed and traction. So you can work from anywhere. Get in touch with us if you're wanting to work, if you are part of the community and there's a usual hub, but you're going to be working somewhere else in the country for a day or a week, you get in touch and we make sure that you can be in touch with the team who's closest to where you're going to be for that time. So declare your preference and communicate with us on what you need on your different working schedules across your journey forward.
Connect with them all.
Yeah.
Go and meet your peers across the country.
Absolutely.
Do we have any more questions in the room? No? Yeah, sure.
On a comment on the diversity aspect as well. If you're doing introductions right at the end to investors, whether it's like angels or VCs, or pick them wisely, because there's no point in having a nice journey and then hitting a brick wall at the end.
I think that's something that Barry's been working on and has been really mindful of. And you'll see reports that came out earlier this week, Anna Stewart, which is just one aspect of DEI and exclusion that tends to happen in that space. The data, the statistic on it is shocking and upsetting. And I think we're all quite passionate about that. So really heeding that. And if you want to have a conversation about that and ideas you have or connections, really open to it. Through Accelerate Her, we also work with Investing Women, which again is women focused rather than all of the intersectional array. But it's a step where we're going, this needs to change. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
We had, we had Ada Ventures, who are a pre-seed seed fund, come to Edinburgh in November, I think it was, and they ran a community event out of the Codebase Edinburgh space. And actually what was interesting about them is they say, we want to diversify our investments. So for them, that means coming to Scotland rather than London. So I think we're seen outside of Scotland also as a diverse pool of opportunity, given the challenges that you might face in Scotland starting a business, well, hopefully not anymore with TechScaler, starting a tech startup and growing it, and that you might have overcome quite a lot to get to that point, and that actually that's a really interesting space to invest in. So I think if we could flip the DEI on its head, then we look at Scotland being the diverse option for investors out of region as well, which is really exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. An ongoing challenge, that one, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Back to an online question.
Thank you. Do you only support unicorns? What about alternative business and funding models?
No, we do not only support unicorns. So if TechScaler helps to create another unicorn, that'll be awesome. That'll be great. But it's not all just about creating unicorns. There are many different approaches to building a business. You can build a Zebra, social impact. This is really, our focus is on the innovation and the playbooks around how you can build that business that you want to build. And look, unicorns are kind of lauded as a target because of frankly, the kind of VC mathematics behind that. They need that kind of infinite upside in order to make those very capitalist investments. But the world is changing. In the last 6 months, interest rates have gone through the roof. The investment landscape has changed massively. There's a lot of new thinking going on about what it means to invest in any business at the moment. Investment will happen, innovation will happen, and that's all coming along at the same time as potentially the next hype cycle being generative AI. You've seen countless use cases for ChatGPT just in the last few months as it's become kind of broadly publicly known. So it's an exciting time. But yeah, unicorns are great. We want to support those, but it's definitely not all about unicorns. Shona, just because you've been most directly involved in looking at a lot of the companies that have come through already, are you seeing them all being unicorn focused?
Yeah, absolutely, only unicorns. I mean, there's a philosophical debate to be had around unicorns and whether that's a sustainable way to build and grow a business, and whether we'll see what are currently unicorns around in 10 years' time. But I'll save that for my TED talk. I'd say for education point of view and from like a mentor value as well, is that there's no point not wanting to grow your business and like have some level of ambition as to what you want to achieve with it, but definitely not unicorn. Other animals welcome. In terms of the variety that we're currently getting through for applications, they're really broad across the spectrum. People just with ideas, people who just want to see what startups do, all the way through. At the moment, we've got a few companies, we're starting to onboard the first Reforge cohort at the moment, and we've got companies raising tens of millions in that cohort. So there's lots of people to learn from as well, from their experience. Some people who've had really poor cap table experience with investors, for example, that can help support people who might be 5 steps behind to understand what's coming or what to avoid in what's coming next. But no unicorns yet, no.
The way I've been looking at it is, Stephen mentioned in one of the slides that ecosystem piece. So in order for it to even produce a unicorn, this was in the STIR report, you need the building blocks, and you need to build lots of things up. There needs to be a lot there in order for just that one unicorn to happen anyway. And so by focusing on creating a really resilient, diverse ecosystem, what you're doing is giving the opportunity for a business that can grow and scale, but that's not the end result of creating that ecosystem. It's about that past failure. It's about the skills learning and the peer learning from each other as well. And so it's those kind of building blocks where any successful company is being built on those blocks from previous companies as well.
Yeah, we're essentially with TechScaler, we're trying to create a layer of support that allows more startups to be created. And then there's the pathway that helps them to grow. But really, the focus right now is just create that support, create that community, have that kind of softer landing that can help people to take that leap. We know that traditionally, being an entrepreneur is something that's a privilege, that comes from people that have money in the bank or have family, friends that they can rely on to support them as they go off and do this crazy thing. We want to make being an entrepreneur more accessible and have that support there that allows that to happen. So if at the other end of that a unicorn is created, great, we will cheer very happily about that. But it really is much more about community, about the ecosystem.
That was great.
That is all we have time for with regard to questions. Before we close for the evening, I'd like to let you know we've got 2 more events, one in Inverness and one in Dundee. If you have any more questions or you'd like to be involved, if you'd like to join our community or apply to TechScaler, our website is www.techscaler.co.uk. For our online attendees, thank you very much for joining us. Anais is going to post a link into the chat to join afterwards for a networking meeting. And if you are in the room with us tonight, please stay for a bit. Please enjoy some snacks. We've got some blue takeaway bags, so please feel free to take snacks away with you. We hate food waste, so load up on bags. They're there to be used and the food is there to be eaten. I'd like to thank the space. Thank you very much to Crichton Central for hosting us. Thank you so much to Graham and Abby for all of the help with the tech support. It's been amazing. Thank you very much to the panel and to Sarah Jane for hosting us in your region. A massive thank you to Anais for keeping us right online. That's the end of this session. Thank you very much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you either online in our online community or at a future event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.